Hey guys, welcome to this add-on video to the cellular respiration series. So I thought there were two overlooked points that I could go into more detail. And the first has to do with the electron in the context of the electron transport chain. So what I didn't really get in detail was the fact that if we have an electron and we know that it's going to go through multiple protein complexes. So each is a protein complex. And then finally we're going to have oxygen receive it as the final electron acceptor. I think what I really should emphasize more is that, well, we know that when an electron is received by each protein complex, it, well, releases energy. Which means that as it progresses in the electron transport chain, it's going to continue to lose energy. So for example, this is totally made of numbers, but if there was 100 worth of energy in the beginning, well, we're going to go to 90, then 80, then 70, you get the point. We're going to lose energy as we go through each protein complex until it finally is received by oxygen. Now, again, these numbers are made up. They could be linear, they may not be, but it was to illustrate a point. And so that's the first thing, that as the electron goes through each protein complex, it loses energy step by step. And then the second point that I wanted to emphasize is that the relationship between the citric acid cycle and oxidative phosphorylation. And simply, one cannot exist without the other. You'll recall that in the previous videos I mentioned that in the citric acid cycle, it does not directly use oxygen, yet it requires it for it to run. Its presence to run. Presence. And the reason is because, well, of oxyphosphorylation. Because, well, let's think about what the role oxygen plays in oxidative phosphorylation. It acts as the final electron acceptor in the electron transport chain. And so, what that means is that if we don't have oxygen, then we're not going to be able to see these reactions happen either in oxidative phosphorylation. And let's move this here. Oops. There we go. And this is a problem because, well, let's think about the products of the citric acid cycle. They were actually right? And so what you see here is that these are mirror images. The products of the citric acid cycle are actually the reactants in oxidative phosphorylation, and the products of oxidative phosphorylation are actually the reactants in the citric acid cycle. And since the citric acid cycle, hence the name cycle, given the name cycle, runs more than once, in order to stay in cycle, it needs oxidative phosphorylation to return these into what citric acid cycle you can use as reactants. And so that's why without oxygen, to summarize, no oxygen, no oxidative phosphorylation, no products necessary to act as reactants in the citric acid cycle. Therefore, the citric acid cycle cannot function properly. And that's why those two cannot be viewed. The citric acid cycle and oxidative phosphorylation can be viewed in isolation, but they should be considered in conjunction.